Oh, I cannot believe this. I'm locked in this tower, in this castle, and my father, the miller, has told the king that I can spin straw into gold. The king has locked me in here and told me if I don't spin gold by morning, he'll kill me. What am I going to do? Poof! Na, 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 na. I am a little mannequin, and I can spin straw into gold if you can pay me. Can you pay me, pretty lady? Anything you want. I have a ring on my finger. Take it. Just spin the gold so I'll live till the morning. A pile of gold appears. Do you remember this fairy tale? Would you like to have someone who could spin gold for you? Keep listening.
Welcome to the Doctor's Mentor Show. If you believe that medicine is an industry and not a profession, if you enjoy submitting complex reimbursement claims, or you would do another residency just for fun, be advised, you're about to be offended. You should probably leave now.
All this talk about mentoring doctors is ridiculous. I thought doctors learned to do everything better than everyone else the first year of medical school. At least that's the way they act.
If you love assisting patients with vitality breakthroughs, if the right to practice medicine without interference is important, and you want expert tips for practice freedom and profits to support your epic life, welcome aboard and prepare to be blown away. The Doctor's Mentor Show starts now. Here's your host, Dr. Lori Barr.
You remember the fairy tale. That's right. It's the story of who? Rumpelstiltskin. Well, today's guest is just as magical as Rumpelstiltskin, but without all the warts and the bad stuff. His name is Jim Butz, and his company is called Resonect. And for 16 years, he's been helping entrepreneurs and business owners spin gold from something they don't even value. And that's what he's here to talk to us about today.
Today's topic.
Today, our topic is on legacy. And my guest today is an amazing man who has worked with emerging technologies for over 50 years. But you know, life's not really about technology. And he gets the big picture about what life is really about. Now, just a little background on Jim. He's been involved with emerging technologies for 50 years, working for AT&T, Lucent Technologies. He is also a managing partner in California Capital Partners. Managing director in California Capital Partners. He helps fund emerging companies so that they have the capital they need to take the next step in their business. He's an awesome advisor and mentor to a number of people who are really moving their businesses forward and their practices forward. And I'm so happy he's going to talk with us today. Jim, thank you for being here.
Well, you're welcome. Glad to be here. And it's I actually didn't tell you about the connection to Rumpelstiltskin, but that was actually what was going through my mind when I came up with the name.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, you should definitely capitalize on that. I can just see you jumping around, singing a little Rumpelstiltskin song. So, Jim, you know, doctors, sometimes as we're going through our practices, our day-to-day activity, we get in a rut and we just do the same thing again and again and again. And we don't even look where our career is going, much less if it's growing. Mm-hmm. You have kind of a bigger vision, and that's evolved over time. Mm-hmm. What do you, Western medicine, you know, we kind of think small. Tell me about how you started thinking bigger.
Well, I've always actually thought bigger. There's a number of things that continuously happen that if you're standing and not paying attention to it, you don't even know what's going on. For example, when we talk about some of the technologies that I recommend people use, if we just look back to the year 2000, because I believe in using video quite a lot, the same thing you're using right now. In 2000, the average bandwidth into a home was 56 kilobits. I mean, today it's you don't want to do anything unless you can get 5 megabits up and 5 megabits down. So that's evolved, and it's got to the point where you can, from any place, be able to create videos, send them out, and do some other things with technology. So you really weren't able to take advantage of that. Today, there's all kinds of platforms that you can use to develop it. You're using one now called Zoom. There's other ones called Webinar Jam, and there's all kinds of things that are around that allow you to be able to take what your content, what your valuable content that you have, and get it out in front of a large group of people. What holds a lot of people back, though, and I can imagine it would help, it's something that gets in the way of physicians, is that you value your time, and some things take you just too much time. One of the things I did through not through California Capital Partners, I created a nonprofit where we were focused on wireless medical devices. And we had a lot of physicians coming in and talking to the groups of people. And one of them came in and said, so just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it. And it was an interesting conversation with people that wanted to create things that doctors should use. So I really value that. And more importantly, there's a couple of things that are going on right now that affect everybody. They just don't know it yet. So one of the things that's going to affect it in terms of technology is that in the not too distant future, because there's already people that are using this, it's just very expensive, but the prices will come down. You're going to be able to talk to anybody in the world without leaving your home. And
Wait. Can't I already do that with Skype?
Yes, but I'm talking about something very different.
Oh.
I'm talking about the capability where you're going to address an audience. Let's say that you're a physician and somebody wants you to go talk to a group of people at a trade show someplace outside of your area, where it would normally waste 2 or 3 days of your time. From your office, you'll be able to make it look like you're physically there, walk out on a stage and talk to them.
Wow.
It's a concept called holographic video. All know what holograms are. And it's being combined now with this concept of augmented reality and virtual reality. So there's so many things you're going to be able to do. Companies like Microsoft are also working on real-time language translation. So what that means is that group that you go out and walk and look like you're there, if they happen to be in where my technical partner is in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and you don't speak Portuguese, you'll be able to have Microsoft's language translators. You speak English, the audience hears Portuguese. They ask you questions in Portuguese, you hear them in English.
Wow.
And then there's things going on where you're going to get gigabit style internet service provided free because of things that are happening with Google and Elon Musk. So that's on the one side. All of a sudden now, things have evolved from being able to your basic business model, working one-on-one with somebody. And of course, when you're working one-on-one, if you spend an hour with somebody, which I understand most healthcare physicians don't do, they're usually working on 10 to 15-minute segments.
Exactly.
But the idea behind it is you went from one-to-one, and if you really wanted to expand your business, totally capable today doing one-to-many, where you're able to do what you're doing right now, but this goes out to a broader audience, but it's really sort of a one-on-one here, but it goes out to as many people as watch it or follow it or whatever it is that you want to do with it. When you start adding these technologies that I talked about, the concept then becomes one to infinity, which means you now can talk to and have live conversations and attend live sessions. You can have masterminds of people that want to follow you any place in the world. And you have the capability of connecting. You will have the capability of connecting with them because it'll look like you're physically there. You're going to be able to have your language translated, and you're going to have enough bandwidth to be able to have that happen. That's not that far away. When I was on the mastermind call yesterday, as you'll remember, one of the people there said that, oh, yes, I know that. She works for the Tony Robbins organization. Tony had just attended a conference in Africa, except he was standing in his house in Florida.
Wow.
But as far as they were concerned, he was there. So right now it's very expensive, but it's going to be coming down.
So wait just a second now, because we're making a few assumptions. I can hear the masses of physicians in the background saying, yeah, but. So yeah. I need to help physicians scratch the butt and actually listen to you, Jim Butz,
Yep.
so that they realize, a couple of things that you're assuming they may already know. And I know you're not really assuming, but I want to make sure we're really clear on this.
Sure.
First off, you said something about content being valuable.
Yes.
Now, the name of your book, your latest book, is Spin Your Content into Gold.
Yeah.
How you can turn your expertise into audience building marketing messages that convert viewers into buyers. And I guess sometimes physicians don't feel like they have anything called content. Can you help me see that picture?
If you're a healthcare physician, you know that there's things that you know that are extremely valuable. After all, people pay you every day to be able to have you sit in front of them and you give them guidance or counseling or, look at what's happening with them. But you're doing it sort of in a one-to-one relationship. You may also do local presentations at chapters to be able to talk to wider groups of people. What you may not understand, which, by the way, just because you're a physician, you're not the only one that does this. There are many people that don't quite get this. That content that's in your head, what you should really think about this is it's an asset. And by the way, how many assets do you really own? How many assets do you own that could allow you to significantly build on those assets?
Okay, so wait, you're saying that just like my 401k is an asset or the stock I own or the real estate I own, you're saying that the content in my head is an asset?
Yeah, let me tell you what the difference is, though. The things that you just named, how well they grow and how big they get are not in your control.
That's true.
They're in the control of someone else. If you get the thoughts that you have out onto something you can deliver to a wide group of people, how much and how often that's viewed and how much money you get from that is completely in your control, not somebody else's. So this is an asset that you manage. And I use an example, and it's a basic example of if you took an hour's worth of content, and I use an hour, and I know physicians don't work on this necessarily, but I use it from a consulting standpoint. If there's a consultant that charges $500 an hour, when they talk to a client, they get $500. But what if they were to take that same content, which somebody's willing to pay $500 for, get it out of their head, which it's in because all you're doing is basically talking, and put whatever other information you put together, and you have somebody build the capability to get and attract people to come to you, and you use a live session. So you can use something like YouTube Live, which you won't know about, but it's the ability to be live while you're talking to somebody. And during that period of time, you deliver that information, and you go out and find 100 people that would pay you $50. Now, all of a sudden, people that are struggling to figure out how can I get above $500 for that 1 hour, they just got $5,000. There's some people saying, well, how do you know they're going to get 100 people? And I say, well, actually, I chose an enormously low number because if you can't find 100 people, as a matter of fact, if you do this 23 more times in a year, it's still only 2,400 people. If you can't find 2,400 people that are interested in what you're doing, that are willing to pay you $50, then you have a bigger problem. So, but the idea is that you would, if you did this and you got the $5,000, you only put in an hour's worth of work for $5,000. And when I usually talk to consultants, they say, oh, well, that's great. And I said, but we're not done, because the service that we use, when you're finished with that 1 hour presentation, they give you a video of what you just did. So then I'd say, so what do you think we can do with this video? Well, they come up with all kinds of crazy things. I said, okay, so that's all really interesting. How about if we just scheduled another event? What if we did another one of these and you got another 100 people to pay you $50? And you schedule the video to go out, or actually the live session to go out. And beforehand, you're on something called a chat roll, which is you being able to talk with the people, and they know you're there. And then at the time that the event starts, instead of you being connected live through the system, you hit play and you play that recording of what you just did before. Pretty good stuff because you already did it. Just have to make sure that nobody can say that, well, it was January. It's called evergreen. We make sure that happens. Well, now you just got another $5,000, but how much time did it take you to get that other $5,000?
About the time it would take to visit a patient with the current reimbursement. Yeah, right.
It's 10 to 15 minutes.
Yep.
It's really, because that's when you're on this chat roll talking. So now you've gotten $10,000 and you put physical time, an hour and 15 to 20 minutes. And then I said, what if you just ran it twice a month for the remainder of the year? At the end of the year, you generated $120,000 if you were to do this. And then how much did it really cost you in actual time? 4 hours. I've already calculated that out.
So wait. You're saying that the average person who is sharing information that's valuable to an audience, not even a big audience,
Right.
could make $120,000 for 4 hours of time just by implementing systems that take the message they would normally deliver one-to-one to either a patient or client and distributing it over time again and again over a 12-month period?
Yeah. Now, let me make sure that at this point in time, because I don't get in trouble with the FTC, this is illustrative. This is an example. I have no idea how anybody could make doing this themselves. I can just tell you that what I'm explaining is something that if you can't get, at the end of the year, you have 2,400 people that you've engaged with. If you don't have an audience for what you're doing of at least 2,400 people, there's really something wrong with what you're trying to do. On average, I think an average medical professional has thousands of hours of information that they have that people would want to pay for. There are people, which is why I talked about where the future of this goes. There are people in remote areas that don't have access to physicians. They don't have access to medical people. They don't have access to somebody that says, "No, well, look, you might have you do a presentation on what you can do in terms of controlling diabetes." It might not even be an hour. But is it worth $50 for somebody to listen to a medical professional and say, "Look, these are the things you ought to look out for. These are things you ought to do. Some of these are health related. By the way, make sure you connect with a physician. But in the meantime, you can look for this and this and this and this." Now, how much would somebody pay for that? I paid to listen to stuff that's not even that valuable and paid $50 for it. So what people have to understand is their intellect, their knowledge is what's interesting to a lot of people. And the idea is to get that out of your head and get it down into a place where you'll be able to use it, create a video of it, and then have that video run repetitively with the video that you did as opposed to the actual live casting. And you can put in you can make a considerable amount of money. I think that this is important, though, for another reason. I've been tracking a lot of things that probably in an area that some of these people will understand. I've been tracking what's happening in terms of healthcare, not today. I'm looking at 5, 6, 10 years out from now. And I'm looking at the technologies that have been invented, like the 2 women who invented CRISPR, the gene editor. I'm looking at the woman over in England who's using stem cells, and she's working with gorillas, monkeys, and pigs, using their stem cells and creating new organs for them and replacing their existing organs, and it's working well. The United States and the FDA has now got this limited to mice. But over the next 5 to 10 years, this is going to change.
You're talking about 3D printing of organs? In that
actually, no, this is stem cell creation. They create it. They don't print it. They
growing. Right, okay.
Yes, they're growing the organs. What they use 3D printers for is, what if you need some sort of a bone replacement? I've seen it done for things like noses and ears for people doing plastic surgery. They'll just create these kind of things. When you start to put these capabilities together, all of a sudden, there's a possibility that even though today it said that people will live to 114, I'm tracking people that are saying, look, it's 150. Somebody says they're going to live till 700. These are capabilities that, although you might not believe in, if you just believed in the idea of what's coming out today that says the average person is going to live to 114, the question is, most people, by the way, not physicians, the average person doesn't have enough money to live till 90.
Well, most physicians probably don't either. We're not the best money managers.
Then it's even more important. See, I don't know that profession that well enough, but you need to be able to make sure that you'll be able to create enough assets to be able to manage those assets, to create funding, to be able to stay with you as long as you need it. And once you have these kind of things, and as I understand what's possible to happen when I think I saw the picture of the man that they thought was the oldest man in the world, 142, and he kind of looked closer to a prune than an individual because he's all shriveled up. They're also this whole gene editing thing has the ability to make you look like you're 35 or 40. So when you look at this, I turned 70 last year. When I was younger, I had the thought of, well, at 65, I'll probably retire and I'll die by 70. The idea of retirement is not in my future. I don't have an idea of what that's going to be like. But I also know that I have to be able to continuously live the lifestyle that I'm used to. I'm going to have to come up with alternative ways for me to be able to live that way because I don't know too many people that do. I'm not part of the 1% that have enough money to be able to live over that period of time and not be concerned about it. My best position for being able to do this is I'm in charge of my own business. I'm in charge with my own destiny. I can do as much as I want and as often as I want, and that's what I want to be able to do. If I'm 100...
Okay. Hold on. Let's take a time out here.
Sure.
You said something really important that a lot of physicians don't realize. You said, I'm in charge of my own destiny.
Yep.
Some doctors feel like the insurance companies, the government, the hospital care organization they work for control their destiny.
Yep.
So here you are saying, well, you can choose to think that way. Yet the reality is I'm in charge of my own destiny. Okay, continue.
Let me just expand about that because as you were saying it, it's like, let me give some reasons why that's true. All of the reasons that you gave for them not being in charge of their own destiny is because they're working for somebody else through somebody else, and you have to apply to their rules and regulations.
Yes.
Now, if you happen to be doing something as self-employed, the only thing you have to be able to check is in the content that I'm putting out, are there any rules or regulations about how do I have compliance about what I'm talking about? Is there something that I should be able to say or not be able to say because there's something in the Hippocratic Oath or something that says you shouldn't be able to do that? But if what you're doing is giving people information on basic characteristics of healthcare, what you can do to be able to have a better life, to be in shape, to the things you should look out for, conversations about how do I know if something on my hand is cancerous, and you have a whole little series on doing those kind of things, that's your information. And it's being delivered through your business. So the only one that controls that is you, not someone else, unless you're doing something completely out of compliance, and then they can come and hit you for that. But you just make sure you're living within the rules when you create.
So just for the physicians, you've got HIPAA compliance, you've got the FTC compliance, so that you're not making outrageous claims like drink a glass of water and you'll be 30 years younger would be an outrageous claim, for example. So those are compliance organizations that you need to check with. You might also need to check with whoever is your primary employer if you're not working for yourself. And remember, just because you're working for someone else doesn't mean you can't also work for yourself.
Of course.
So if you don't already have Schedule C income that you're bringing in as a consultant, as a professional outside of your practice, if you're working for someone else, set that up. It's easy, and you can take advantage of the legal tax breaks that are available to small business owners that if you're only an employee for somebody else, you won't be able to do. Yep. And also I want to emphasize too on all the emerging technologies that you've just mentioned, Jim, with telemedicine and with the possibility of federal licensing or international licensing to practice medicine, there's going to be two choices. You can either be the master of your own information and content and be a leader right now, or you can agree to be a slave and you can sell your content to somebody else. Because these large telemedicine companies will be looking for experts who create content for them, and they scrape off the money, the profits. So it's your choice.
Yeah, you need to make sure if you're doing anything for anybody that you still contain the rights to whatever it is that you've created. The other thing, and here I'm talking to a very small slice of people who might be listening to this. If you're concerned about a lot of other things, what if you got to be really good about that? What if you put together a mastermind program for other physicians and teach them what it is that you're doing? There's nothing associated with that. I mean, that's just teaching people about how you're using technology in this profession and how they can too. That's a business in and of itself. And that's actually worth a lot more money than just having, $50 for 100 people to be able to join. So I think that the things that I've seen coming along and in the future, I've lived through a lot of the past. I've seen all the things that are going there. The things that right now are just crazy. I think that as I heard, there's only 3 things that they needed to deal with to extend life. One of them was heart disease, which is pretty under control. Cancer, which they think 2020. I mean, there's Joe Biden's doing a moonshot on this. And then Alzheimer's, which are the 3 big things that we're getting into the older age people that would take them out. In fact, now those things are pretty much under control. I've seen some real strides in Alzheimer's disease and sort of things that, sort of fluids that are growing around the brain. I don't understand them because I'm not a physician. But when you know that you can live this long, and if what you knew wasn't really valuable, people wouldn't pay you for it. The other thing you got to be careful about is, I don't want to confuse people a lot, but there's a whole area of people, for surgeons, that robotic surgery. I was listening to someone who said there'll be a point in time where you're in for some sort of surgery and you see a doctor walking towards you and you get scared to death. Because the idea behind that was going to be, well, we're going to interconnect all the devices that are going to do this. So every time somebody does an operation, a unit does an operation, it all gets logged in someplace. Well, if that happens, what do you do? What is it that your job gets down to as these things advance? Not today, 15 years from now, what does medicine look like? And there's a piece of this that can absolutely be in your control, and you can take advantage of it now or later and do it as much or as little as you want, but it's completely your business.
So earlier you said, if someone's not paying you for your content, then it's not valuable. And I just want to clear this up for all the physicians out there who are perfectionists or reformed perfectionists. Just because nobody's paying you yet for your content doesn't mean it's not valuable. You're just becoming aware that you have information inside your head that other people consider valuable. How many people are on Facebook now, Jim?
3 billion.
3 billion people on Facebook alone.
Yep.
And just because no one's paying you yet for the ideas in your head that you haven't bothered to make videos or audios or written a book about yet, doesn't mean it's not valuable. It's just that you haven't been aware of how you can get that information out. And that's exactly what Jim is sharing with you.
Yeah, let me give a tip for this. And by the way, if you read it yesterday, because I sent you something, you'll notice where it came from. If you have some idea that you don't really have anything that's worthwhile, I'll ask you to just do this.
Wait. Before you do that.
Okay.
Your next step.
Just a heads up here. This is going to be your next step. So listen very carefully to what Jim shares here.
So there's a lot of people, by the way, that run into this problem. Like, I don't know what to do. I run into this with people who are trying to create a book, because every one of my clients has to have a book. They don't know what to write about. So if you're not sure that you have really good and valuable information, although if you think about it, you probably would come up with this on your own. But if you were to just take out something to write with or something to collect information, what are the top 10 questions your patients frequently ask you? And write them down, collect them someplace. Once you do that, the next thing to do is to ask yourself, what are the things that they should ask me that they don't ask me? I will tell you those become even more important. As an investor, I've worked with entrepreneurs all the time, and I could do the frequently asked questions, but I knew that the questions they should ask me, now my job as an investor is not to go in and track them down and get them to answer those questions. That's not my job. I want to know what it is that they're looking for. But I will tell you the should ask questions are the ones that will be probably even more important to you. You now have 20 topics. Search through your index of your brain and say, how many things can I talk about? How much content do I have on each one of those 20 things? I would be surprised if you don't come up with somewhere between 50 and 100 ideas about what you can do and create videos for, or any other kind of documentation that you can deliver and charge money for. You don't have to charge a lot. There's a gentleman named Peter Diamandis who I've taken in some courses with, and he's got a simplistic vision of, you want to be a billionaire, it's really simple. Solve a problem that affects 1 billion people and charge them $1. Now, 10 years ago, well, how do I get in front of 1 billion people? Okay, today, find out something. There's 3 billion people on Facebook. You just got to get involved with 1/3 of them, and you're going to have the ability to, within some period of time, to be able to even talk to them in languages. So you have the content inside of you. If you think that this is going to be something that will take a lot of your time, you need to find somebody whose business is to get people to be able to use technology, not learn technology. It's one of the things I've been doing for my entire career. I don't like technology because it's too much to learn. I'm only interested in what technology does for you. So you find somebody who actually understands how to do this, and they can work with you. And your amount of time is not going to be in figuring out how to do this video, this system, that system. Yours is going to be get your content down, get your marketing messages down, and work with somebody who can help put that all together so that you can just play these things on your own.
Okay, so many scary things in what you said there. First, the idea of creating 100 videos for an already overwhelmed physician is even more overwhelming, kind of like there's no way I'm going to do that. So thank you for sharing an easy path to that creation. And, you can look at thedoctorsmentor.com for ideas of how you can always make video right in your pocket, always make audio right in your pocket. It does not have to be hard. This can be super easy.
Yes.
And then also just the whole idea of, the whole technology thing, like you said earlier, it is overwhelming. And just know there are plenty of providers out there who are looking for customers like you, the physician, to create the content and hand it over to them and let them do the things you're not good at. Now, as physicians, we're taught that we can do anything and that we can do it pretty darn good if we put in some time. And that would be true for any human being. If we're willing to put in the time, we can definitely become an expert. What Jim is suggesting is that you give up that idea that you can do everything yourself, which can be hard for physicians to give up, and that you actually only concentrate on the things that you're super good at.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So the challenge is, can you get over yourself and identify what you're super good at and what's valuable for your audience, for your patients, for your colleagues? Who's asking you for your expertise? Who wants to bend your ear? Who wants to take you to lunch? That's what you ought to be looking at to figure out what you're an expert in.
Yeah, there's a gentleman named Dan Sullivan who's the strategic coach. And I like him a lot because he clarifies this really well. When you're going to do anything, any kind of a project, it ends up that 80% of what you need is in your core. You know how to do that. 20% is not in your core. And where do you think most people focus on? The 20%. Because they figure that, well, if that's that important, I might as well do that. That's the idea that I have to be able to do everything myself. Generally, though, they end up spending 80% of their time on this 20%, and they just give up, and it doesn't work. I believe that the other reason why most people focus on this 20% is we've been taught, at least I was taught, work on your weaknesses. That is nonsense. Work on your strengths. And in the case of the physicians, your strength is building more content and better content, not on how do I work all the systems. If you find somebody that your 20% is their 80%, then your 80% and the 16% that you get from them, 96% of what you need is already done. So I'm an advocate of being in that space and doing those kinds of things.
And just as a side note on that point, while Jim is talking about this on a human, individual level, this has borne out in the organizational research that, again, let's look at productivity. In radiology, we're always looking at productivity. If an organization would stop concentrating on the lower 20% of the people and trying to beat out more productivity in the lower 20%, and instead take the top producers and move them up just a fraction, the overall practice benefits tremendously. Yet we feel like, because we want everybody to do their fair share, that we absolutely have to torture the people who are lower end producers, who may be the absolutely most valuable people in your practice, because they may be the ones spending more time with the patients and creating those relationships. We beat them up tremendously sometimes. So not only on the personal level, but on the organizational level, this has borne out in the productivity literature.
Well, the thing is that people, that they don't have enough time, and I get that, but time is really a balance of, if I want to learn to do the things that I don't know how to do, then I'm going to put more time in, which is not what I want to do. So focus on the things you can do. If you become really comfortable with doing video, that's what holds a lot of people up. They're not comfortable with it. So all you have to do is do a lot of it. One of the best cameras to do video with is actually an iPhone. And you can actually set an iPhone up in your car, and on your drive to and from work, you could turn it on and you could record videos on your way to from work. I know a lot of people that do that. Now, if you're the type of person who gets completely involved with it and doesn't pay attention to driving, that's one thing. But if you get really comfortable with it, you can use what I would consider to be downtime, which is in driving back and forth to someplace, and just do things and create either audios or videos of what it is that you want to talk about. There's lots of alternative things you can do, but the first idea is to say, okay, I get it. I have content. I spent a career. I went through all of my training, all of my medical practice. I'm here at this place in time. I have things that I know about that I believe are valuable to a wide group of people, but they're not valuable until you get them out of your head and get them down into some place where you can put something in place to be able to share it.
So just to summarize, we want physicians to think bigger. Stop thinking one-to-one. Start thinking one-to-many. And more importantly, realize that in a very short period of time, it'll be one to infinity. So think big, dream big about where your message, your important content, your valuable asset that you've been undervaluing can go. And yet start small. Let's start really simple. Let's just write down the 10 questions our patients ask and what those answers are, and create those videos and audios, and then the questions they should be asking.
Right.
Beautiful next steps. So I would encourage everybody to get to know Jim better by looking at his books you can find them all on Amazon. He is just like Rumpelstiltskin, except all magic and all fun, and none of the warts or none of the long-term commitments like Rumpelstiltskin wanted the firstborn child, I believe, is the fairy tale.
I don't want anybody's firstborn child. My own firstborn children were the ones that were costing so much money.
So his book is Spin Your Content into Gold. It's Jim Butz, and he is an expert. So please look him up, buy his book, and learn more about how you can spin your content into gold. Thank you so much, Jim, for being on the show.
You're welcome. Thanks for the opportunity to talk.
Are you stopping at a hospital? Hello? Don't you know that hospitals are one of the sickest places on the planet? Don't touch anything in there and get out as fast as you can.